What is going on, everybody? Welcome to our new Friday series, which is going to be our Feature Friday series. This series is going to feature breeders, keepers, other industry leaders in the reptile hobby that are breaking new grounds. There's a lot of new reptile technology people that I would like to have on. Also, communication outlets like Morph Market that connects buyers and sellers has really helped our industry grow a lot, the hobby grow a lot, awareness, availability of animals, all of that stuff. So, what's going on, Bam Bam? Good to have you in here. So, before we get started, I'm really saddened because we had a couple freak events, and the two guests that we were supposed to have on today are going to not be able to make it. We will reschedule them for the future, but it's just really bad luck that something happened with both of them at the same time. And all three of us are pretty good friends, so we all kind of know each other. It's kind of funny that it happened at the same time, but Junior is not feeling really well. It might be the heat, he does construction, and he's been not feeling so good, like good enough to where he not good enough to where he can't be here. So we're just gonna let him rest, let him heal up. And Thomas, ever faithful, is he got called out last minute to work, so we won't be able to have him on as well. But we will reschedule those two and have them in the future. I just really wanted to establish this foreground of Fridays because I know Fridays is not a normal day for us, and I didn't want to just like cancel the episode, so I figured that I would be here and we could still do a little bit of something. Now, to be 100% honest, I too am a little weary because it was probably actually today in Arizona was cooler. It was probably only like 110 at its hottest, but there was a lot of overcast. And so what I did was I took advantage of the overcast and I cleaned out the garage. Now, I'll tell you why that's such a big deal that I cleaned out the garage. Number one, our house is a complete mess, and my wife has been really wanting the garage cleaned so that we could store everything in the garage. So that's really nice for both of us. But also, number two, I need to build more gecko racks. And to build more gecko racks, I need my garage cleaned. So, Bam Bam, I'll go ahead and show your feature Friday. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what to title it exactly, but um, yeah, oh, Arizona, we might be getting a sandstorm as well because it was looking a little bit overcast tonight, like leading into tonight, and a lot of times that has to do with like rain coming in or sandstorm. So that's really cool. Go get a gecko. Yeah, what kind of favorite geckos are your favorite? Um, so today is going to be a Geeky Gecko Friday, but I do want to interact with you guys. I would like to know what makes you guys in love with leopard geckos because that's going to be a huge focus of our Friday night sessions as well. Is I would really love to have more leopard gecko influence and people on because as good as leopard geckos are, I feel like they're not promoted to the max degree right now to capture the most attention in the hobby. And part of that is just because there's not a ton of content exposure, like YouTube videos, live streams, and podcasts centered around leopard geckos. And there's a few other reasons that I won't get into too much maybe on this episode. But just like any hobby, there's a lot of disagreements. There's a lot of people that don't get along. And so that has kind of dominated the leopard gecko hobby for such a long time that it pushed a lot of people away from an amazing species. So, without further ado, we're going to get into it. Let me give a quick shout out to our sponsor for the stream because these guys sponsor our channel, rainbowmealworms.net. If you've never been to rainbowmealworms.net, it's so easy to navigate. You just type it into the Google bar. As soon as you come here, you can find almost any feeder insect you want. They treat all of their feeder insects to make sure that there is not um, like mites and all kinds of little parasitic bugs as much as possible in their collection. They have ways that they treat that. And they do a really good job of that. And they've been around a really long time. And so I trust these guys a lot. And I use them solely for all my insect needs. So if you need mealworms, which is common for leopard gecko keepers, you would just scroll down to mealworms. You can choose whatever size you want. And there is typically, how many size options? One, two, three, four. There's four different size options and then a mixed variety. Minis are going to really be used for tiny, tiny geckos, like not leopard geckos. Leopard geckos are good to start with mediums. So we feed all of our we order 3/4 inch mediums, and that's good for our babies and our adults, and we order them in bulk. Whenever you order them in bulk, you save a ton. So let me show you this real quick. If you're buying 500 mealworms, for $4.50. So you're going to take 4.5, well, 450 divided by 500, and you're paying 0.009, which is not even a penny per insect. A penny would be right here at this zero. So you're almost paying about almost 1 penny per insect. But if you were to buy, let's say, 40,000 of them, which is typically what I order in 40,000 quantities. If you need more, you can contact them. But it's $144. So let's see. If I'm correct, you should be saving money. And if I'm incorrect, then bad on me. 144 divided by 40,000. Oh, no, you're definitely saving. You're saving. So remember, when you buy 500 mealworms, it's 0.009. This number was 9. But when you buy 40,000 mealworms, it's 0.003. So you're literally saving 3 times the cost on mealworms. Think about that for a second. 3 times the cost. So if you're spending $50 on mealworms every month, if you were to buy in bulk, you can cut that by a third and store the worms in the refrigerator, and they are good to go for a month. That's why I love these guys. Great deals, great customer service, great business altogether. So MST Exotics. Yeah, Frank, right now I'm remodeling my house, but in 5 to 6 months from now, I'll love to get 10 Leos from you. Well, I'll tell you what, MST, I would love to provide 10 Leos from you, so that would be awesome. So this week, we've sold a lot of the geckos on our website, and it's time for me to update the website. So this week, we're going to be updating the website with new geckos. So I have to go into the gecko room and take pictures of all those geckos and then upload them to the website. So that's a fun time, but also a busy time. So we will have more geckos on there, and we hope to continue that route every single month where I can add new geckos to the website. So bam, bam. Personalities and the potential of newer morphs and patterns. Yes, actually, I wanted to make a video on this. So let's talk a little bit about the potential of newer morphs and patterns. I was actually, if you have time later, let me do a little bit of promotion here. Look, we are live right now. So a little bit of promotion here. We'll go to, what's the podcast name? Strength in Leos. And he just did an interview with Matt Baranek of Sassaback Reptiles, which, if you don't know, this guy was like an OG in the game a while back, and he's making a comeback now. But he is starting this newer project that is stemming off of his clown project, which is he's claiming to be the continuation of clown, what he did not get to finish before he left the hobby. So 10 years has gone by. He's back into it now. This is a really good watch. As you can see, I had just started it. But he's talking about some pretty cool projects that he has in mind as far as like trying to create an all purple gecko, trying to just enrichen the clown project with different genetics like Black Knight and other tangerine bloodlines like Firebolt and Red Diamond that it hasn't really been marketed or infused with as much. Matt is a great marketer. That's why he was great for leopard geckos when he was around 10 years ago. And after he left and a bunch of other people left, the hobby just, the marketing side of it just kind of died down. And therefore, that kind of allowed for the hobby to die down a little bit. So, unfortunately, that was the blow that leopard geckos faced. But there are a lot of newer breeders coming into the hobby now that are bringing passion and excitement. Which would have been Junior's Geckos and Thomas and myself and Bam Bam's Geckos, a lot of you guys that follow us. And as we as a community get more excited and are able to promote the leopard geckos more, I truly think that we can bring leopard geckos back to an increased financial status in the hobby. Because for the most part, right now, um, there is not as much money flowing in the leopard gecko world. A lot of leopard geckos sell really, really cheap, even if they are great quality leopard geckos that would have sold for hundreds of dollars in the past. It's a really tough competitive market right now because a lot of people aren't willing to spend as much right now on leopard geckos specifically, number one. And number two, there just hasn't been a lot of promotion and excitement drawing people in. But how can you not be excited about this leopard gecko here? I mean, look at the beauty of these leopard geckos. The part of the excitement of leopard geckos is new projects as well. So it's very important to promote projects and promote new projects. So, for example, like what I'm constantly preaching about is talking about like wild genetics into our current genetics, and just creating a lot of like attention around names and dynamics. So like this gecko right here is a Mandarin Inferno, and instead of just calling it a Mandarin Inferno, when you call it a Manferno, it kind of generates a little bit of buzz. People are like, "Oh, I like the name Manferno. I want to get a Manferno," and that's kind of what the leopard gecko hobby's been missing a little bit too. Our hyperxanthic bolds are like super super white right here, so I need to come up with with the name for that. Our Afghanicus crosses are I'm really excited for to cross this into Black Knight as well as like Mandarin and other bloodlines, other tangerine bloodlines as well, and white and yellow and stuff. So I think Afghanicus has a lot to offer to the leopard gecko world because look, these are just normal Afghanicus snows. These are just Afghanicus snows, 50% Afghanicus blood, because it was a pure Afghanicus bred to a Super Snow Macularis, and you could see like just the amount of boldness, the jungle wonky pattern after one generation. I think Afghanicus has a lot to offer. You know, Lemon Frost, of course, if we can clean up Lemon Frost and make it tumor free or as tumor free as possible, that'll be a fun gene to mess around with. And here is Afghanicus eggs with embryos from this Black Knight girl. So we're hoping we could get some fertile eggs with that. Here's the Afghanicus again. Afghanicus snow. I mean, look at that. That's just amazing. Like, there's really nothing else that looks like that. So, pretty cool. I'm excited. And that's the type of buzz that you got to generate for people. You got to show them why they should be excited about leopard geckos. You know, because I'll tell you what, guys, I'm an honest guy, right? I want to say I've never lied to you, but I'm human. So humans, you know what I mean? We make mistakes. We tell accidental lies or whatever the case is. But my goal is to never lie to you and to always be upfront and honest with you guys. And I'll be honest with you guys. There is a lot of traction right now in the crested gecko world. The crested gecko world is blowing up, is taking off. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, crested geckos take longer to breed than leopard geckos. On average, you're looking at 2 to 3 years before a crested or leopard gecko is going to be used as a breeder, whereas with leopard geckos, you're looking at 6 months. Now, that could be good and bad in a way. It's good in the sense that you could work your projects faster. It's bad in the sense that you could work your projects faster and therefore people can create more quicker and the value drops. You know what I mean? So an example of that is fast food, right? When you go to McDonald's, why is the food so cheap? Well, the materials, number one, but also the speed in which they could kick that food out in allows them to sell it at a lower price compared to when you go to a sit down restaurant and you have to wait, an hour or two before your meal is done. You know what I mean? And that's a completely different experience. So that's kind of like leopard geckos are like the fast food of the reptile world. And because a lot of people breed leopard geckos and get into them, there's a lot of competition out there. And therefore, the price of geckos tends to stay lower on average, and people are willing to spend less because of that. But another reason that people are not willing to buy into leopard geckos as much as 10 years ago is because of buzz, right? You have to create buzz in a hobby. A hobby has to be exciting for people to want to get in. If, for example, a lot of you guys in the chat right now, if you're just simply about like making money, it's not easier with crested geckos, but I could tell you this: crested geckos has more money involved in the hobby right now than leopard geckos does, because there are crested geckos that are selling for $30,000, and that's what's making people jump in to try to create businesses. It's the same thing in the ball python world. The ball python market has been hot for a long time now, and the ball python market is hot for a couple of reasons. Number one, ball pythons have infinite amount of combinations that you can make, so there's always new projects to work, which means that the newer projects always sell for higher money. We're talking anywhere from a couple $1,000s to a couple $100,000 per sale per snake, or for like a small group of like a breeding group of newer projects. So you could think of that from a financial business perspective. Why are so many people jumping into ball pythons? From a business perspective, because they see that there's a lot of money in it. There's millions of dollars spent every single year in the ball python world. The leopard gecko world might maybe peak $100,000 or $200,000, and that is really selling a lot in volume. It's a lot of animals for cheap, whereas the ball python world is a lot of animals for cheap, but it's also a lot of animals for high dollar that people are spending. And we're seeing something similar with the crested gecko market right now as well. I'm a market studier. This is what I do. I study the markets to try to pick the right projects to get into, because at the end of the day, this is a business for me. It's not just a hobby anymore. It's a business, and I want to grow it as one. So I need to find the projects that are most lucrative and the ones that offer most potential. Now, the reason that I'm into leopard geckos is because leopard geckos is my heart's desire, and I think they're so fun, and it's my number one passion. But which is why I'm so dedicated to improving the leopard gecko marketing strategy, because a lot of the hobby up to this point for the last 10 years has not done the best job of marketing leopard geckos, showing why leopard geckos are really awesome, and showing the potential of the new projects that you could work. And on the opposite side, that's exactly what ball python people are doing and exactly what crested gecko people are doing. Now, the benefit that those two markets have is that it's slower for projects to get rolled out, because it takes 2 to 3 years to breed those animals, versus leopard geckos is a very fast thing. So like, even if I create a project today, boom, within 2 to 3 years, that project can be like so far along, and that really makes the value of the project drop, because you've recreated it already so many times that customers are not willing to pay as much for it because a whole bunch of people are already doing it. Gargoyle geckos already are taking off in popularity. The problem with gargoyle geckos is that there is not as many combinations as crested geckos. However, gargoyle geckos, the top end gargoyle geckos, tend to sell for a lot of money, and people tend to buy them for a lot of money. Therefore, a lot of people are getting into gargoyles, but not as much as is getting into crested geckos. Crested geckos just had the release of the super cappuccino. So let's go over real quick to Omni Geckos. Look at this thing. The super cappuccino is like a translucent animal. Also, City Reptile, I think, was the first one to discover the cappuccino morph and the super cappuccino morph. And look what they're doing with it, though. Let me show you. Cappuccino red. Is this a cappuccino? No, that's not a cappuccino. But check these out. These are frappuccinos, which are lily white cappuccinos. So the crested gecko world has had a big push in new genetics within the past 5 years. Number one, there are a lot of like scientific studies starting to show or reveal that crested gecko genetics are not as simple as we once thought, and they do tend to follow dominant and recessive inheritance similar to leopard geckos, which is what made leopard geckos so popular, is now beginning to make crested geckos even more popular in the sense of high dollar value animals. So these two animals right here are lily white cappuccinos. Both the lily white gene and the cappuccino gene are new genetics into crested geckos, and those animals are selling for 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a piece for these animals. So tons of breeders are jumping in to work these projects so that they can make a lot of money off of them. And that's one of the reasons why the crested gecko market is on the rise right now, is because they have new morphs and a ton of people, because there are new morphs and high value in those morphs, a ton of breeders are jumping in and getting people excited to be breeders themselves for the hobby. And so that whole reasoning is trending that hobby upwards, versus the leopard gecko hobby. There's not a lot of content going on, which is why I want to do Monday night live streams with you guys and do Friday night podcast episodes, so that we can be more supportive of leopard geckos as a community and promote leopard geckos, because leopard geckos to me are more fun to have as a pet than a crested gecko. They grow faster, so you're not stuck waiting on this little gecko to grow up for 3 years. They eat bugs, which is super fun to watch them hunt. And arguably, they come in just as many combinations, if not more, genetic mutations than crested geckos. So arguably, they have everything they need to be on the rise. But they're just kind of plateaued right now. But with more content and more progression, which is why you hear me talk a lot about new wild type projects, Afghanicus Black Knight, Fasciolatus Black Knight, Afghanicus Tangerine, Afghanicus Snow, Fasciolatus Tangerine, Fasciolatus Snow, talking about all these projects that will give us time and things to look forward to, will help the more people get into the hobby and the geckos sell for better money. Because right now leopard geckos are selling for money that I think they're not worth. I think $100 gecko that somebody is selling today, like I've sold some $100 geckos over the last couple of weeks. I honestly think those geckos should be in the $200 to $300 range. The only problem is that people aren't willing to pay that right now because of where the market is. So it's not that leopard geckos does not offer variety of genetic value. I mean, let's just go to my page here real quick. Look at this genetic value. Black Knight, Mandarin Inferno, weird eclipse thing, weird eclipse gecko. This wonky pattern gecko that has like dark purple colorations. Look at this, Afghanicus. Lots of dark pattern coming in. Just really cool color hues, pattern manipulation, pure white back on this hyperxanthic bold stripe. There is a lot to do with leopard geckos. Here was the giveaway contest winner, which we found out who won the contest, by the way. was a nice young lady out of Florida, so we sent her the gecko, and her boyfriend are very happy. There was the gecko giveaway. Another Mandarin Inferno. Black Knight again. And we're just now reaching the tip of the potential for Black Knight. Black Knight Mandarin, Black Knight wild types, all of those really need to be done. Another Mandarin Inferno, a pink baby. So like for leopard geckos, if you want pink, it could be done. If you want orange, it could be done. If you want black and bold, it can be done. If you want white, it can be done. If you want jungle pattern manipulation, it can be done. If you want an orange gecko with black spots and green like hues, it can be done. If you want an orange gecko that looks like a creamsicle drink that has white patterning as well, it can be done. There is so much that can be done with leopard geckos that I truly think we're still just scratching the surface. The problem is we just have to promote that more. And by we, I mean us as a hobby, you know. And specifically by us, I mean the people who are breeding these projects should be showing these projects off and generating a lot of buzz around that. And that is what will bring people back to the leopard gecko hobby. Now, the one thing about leopard geckos that's a little more difficult than crested geckos is that leopard geckos need heat. Crested geckos don't. And so that makes crested geckos a little bit more enticing for breeders to get into because both of them are kept in tubs. Both of them have very cheap food. Both of them are very easy to keep and relatively long-lived and genetically intense animals. But the difference, one of the biggest differences between both of them is that leopard geckos need heat, crested geckos don't need heat. And so a leopard gecko is a bigger investment. You need to invest in heat tape, heat mats, heat racks, all of that stuff. Unless you're like me, which is why I'm promoting room temperature. If you have a closet or a small space that you could heat up to 85 degrees, leopard geckos will digest their food perfectly fine, breed perfectly fine, and everything will be good. There's a fly in here, so if you see me looking at them like, what? So I think with new innovative ideas like that, like how do we make leopard geckos easier and more accessible for people to breed and keep? New ideas like that will also help more people be excited for leopard geckos. So if you guys got ideas about temperatures, that's probably the biggest barrier to entry for leopard geckos right now is that they require a little bit of heat. I did a birthday party the other day, and more people at the birthday party enjoyed holding leopard geckos and thought leopard geckos were cuter than crested geckos. And I have a video on this of why I think leopard geckos are cuter and have more personality than crested geckos is because they have eyelids. Crested geckos can't close their eyes. And so crested geckos look kind of freaky. Like you don't know what's going on inside of their head. Whereas with leopard geckos, you can tell by their facial expressions what's going on inside of their head because they have the ability to close their eyes and look at you and blink, and they have more muscles in their face than a crested gecko does, and that makes them more human-like. So nice walking in. Thanks for the like. How old does a leopard gecko have to be for you to breed it? So we have a couple videos on this, Joshua. They can both be about 6 months old to breed them. But a female, if you're a newer breeder and you might be concerned about her losing weight and stuff like that, because that does happen, I would wait until the female is about 55 to 60 grams. And the male could be a little bit smaller, like 50 to 55 grams. Both of them about 6 months old. If they're growing good. So like Joshua, I just sent you like a slow growing leopard gecko. If that leopard gecko might take longer to breed because it might take longer to get up to breeding size. But try to feed that gecko like some appropriate size dubia roaches and stuff like that, and you can help, spur that gecko's growth along. But typically, if you're feeding leopard geckos a lot, I mean, like regularly, and you have the proper heat and all that. There, can you guys hear me? My headphones. Can you guys hear me? These headphones. They frustrate me. But let me know if you could hear me. So what I was saying was, um, cool, cool. What was I saying? I was saying, what was I saying? Mm, breeding size. If you're feeding a leopard gecko good, like a decent amount of food every week, proper heating and all that, a leopard gecko will be an adult size typically within 5 months, sometimes a little bit less. And they will be sexually mature in about 5 to 6 months. Like females might start ovulating. The problem is if you're a newer breeder and your female starts ovulating really young and you breed her and she starts losing a bunch of weight or goes off food, you might not know how to get her back onto food, and she might lose a bunch of weight and in worst cases die. So that's why I suggest waiting until the girl is 55 to 60 grams. If she's 55 to 60 grams, she's and you're feeding her, she'll make it through a breeding season. She shouldn't have an issue. But if she's like I breed some of my girls around 35 to 40 grams, but that's because I'm comfortable and confident if with the signs of a leopard gecko that needs to like not be repaired anymore, that needs to have food offered in a different way or fresh water regularly. I'm confident enough that I can help those skinny girls that are losing a lot of weight or just smaller throughout breeding season. I'm confident that I can help them along to the point where they're not gonna wither away and die. If you're not confident in that and you haven't done that enough times, you're probably going to want to wait till the girl is 55 to 60 grams. Otherwise, it can be a pretty scary thing when you start to see your leopard gecko around 35 grams and maybe you start to see her spine showing, or maybe a girl gets egg bound and you don't know what to do. So all of these things can happen in breeding. So it's better just to go on the safer side, 55 to 60 grams for a girl, and you'll be good. What do you think about pairing a Tango Crush with the clown? I think that is absolutely interesting. And the thing that I like about Tango Crush or Mandarin is that Mandarin and Tango Crush have an opportunity for geckos to be het for NDBE, Nor Desire Black Eyes. Now, Nor Desire Black Eyes is uh, this is another reason why the leopard gecko hobby struggles a little bit. Is people don't people care more about issues than they do about creating cool looking animals. So at the end of the day, the number one goal we have is to create cool looking animals. And of course, we want those animals healthy. Now, there's some health issues that are more concerning or worse than others. For example, if lemon frost can't be fixed, I have no interest in continuing to breed it, or at least in mass quantity, and sell it, because if it can't be fixed, I don't want to be producing a lot of geckos with tumor issues. However, if it can be fixed, good. If it can't be fixed, but it can be limited, like controlled a little bit, then I'll do selective breeding of it. For example, I might want to see what a lemon frost clown looks like. And I'm not going to like breed a whole bunch of them, but I would breed a few just so I can create some really interesting morphs. And the thing with NDBE is that I don't have personal experience with this, but from what I read on websites like geckoboa.com, female NDBEs don't produce eggs. Male NDBEs can breed and have successful babies, but females don't have babies. So therefore, a lot of the hobby stays away from NDBE. The problem is NDBE has a really cool look to it. It darkens the geckos. It makes the greens greener. It makes the oranges a deeper orange. There's a lot of benefits to the look of NDBE. Um, and so I I think having the potential to create an NDBE variation in your collection is better than to not have that potential. I'd rather have the potential to make more cool looking, unique, and dynamic animals than not make more cool looking, unique, and dynamic animals. This is very popular in the Asian countries. They have a lot of best looking gecko or best looking reptile competitions. What they do in these best looking reptile competitions is they don't care about the health issues for them. They don't care about anything except to make the best looking animal. And they have competitions for that. And so, trust me, at the end of the day, no one wants to see an unhealthy animal. I care about the health of the animal. But it's also cool to make something unique and different that you don't see at all, especially if you can do it in a controlled way to where you're not making like a ton of animals that have the issue with whatever that health issue is. So like in Asia, let's just say, they're fine with NDBE and they'll make some of the coolest looking NDBEs in the leopard gecko hobby. And the same with lemon frost. They're fine with lemon frost. So their lemon frost game is like, as far as mutations are concerned, they're well far ahead of anybody in America because they breed tangerine lemon frost, enigma lemon frost, and all that. Now, I don't really have a desire to go that route. My desire for lemon frost is to create the healthiest, most outcrossed version. And if that looks promising, then I will try to integrate white and yellow, enigma, and all those other genetics back into it. But for now, my number one goal with lemon frost is to create a perfectly healthy animal. And if that can't be done, then I need to reconsider my plan. If I want to, which will depend also on the success of how clean we can breed lemon frost. So like if we can breed 90% good lemon frost, but 10% are bad, then I might breed them a little bit here and there in select projects just to create some really cool, unique looking animals. But if 90% are bad and only 10% are good, then I don't want to work the project because it's a waste of rack space. It's a waste of time. Also, you're creating unhealthy animals. You are not helping yourself out reputation-wise because there's a lot of people that really frown upon those health projects like Enigma, Lemon Frost, NDBE, even Black, and here's the thing that not a lot of, all of the people that are nitpicky about Enigma or Lemon Frost, they are also perfectly fine with breeding Tangerine and Black Knight. Now, I got to tell you, Tangerine and Black Knight have a very high chance to produce stunted babies because they've been inbred for so long. No matter what Tangerine bloodline you're working with, whether it's Clown, whether it's Joker, whether it's Mandarin, whether it's Inferno, whether it's Gecko Genetics, Electric, no matter what Tangerine bloodline you're working with, if you breed it to a different bloodline, there's a really high chance that those bloodlines are related at some point from their past. And what you see in Tangerine leopard geckos is you will see stunted geckos. You will see genetic issues like you might have sometimes like overbites or crinkled eyes or kinked tails because the Tangerine bloodline has been bred to itself for so long for deeper color and richer contrast that a lot of those genetics overlap and align. And so the same people that are complaining about problems with Enigma and problems with Lemon Frost, they have no problem with taking risk and chances of that happening with Tangerine, which if they're telling the truth, I can almost say without a doubt that 100% of Tangerine and Black Knight breeders experience health issues with their animals. They just keep the healthiest ones and show off the healthiest ones, but they don't show you the stunted Black Knights or the stunted Tangerines or the ones that die in the egg because the genetics are weak or the ones that are, never thrive or grow to be full size because the Tangerine has been inbred for so long. They don't talk about all of that because they'll be condemning themselves. And all they're interested in is condemning others. So I do think NDBE deserves a chance in the hobby, and every genetic deserves a chance in the hobby. But I'm also on the side of I don't want mass problems. You know what I mean? Which is why I used to have a big problem with Enigma because I had an Enigma leopard gecko, and it lived a very painful couple of months, spinning around in circles, not eating, and eventually starving itself to death no matter what I did. And so it was very painful for me to watch that happen. And same thing with lemon frost. When I first saw the first lemon frost, they looked terrible, and it's like shorter faces, shorter bodies, tumors all over their body. But Enigma has been outcrossed to a degree where I don't work with it, but I hear it's good. And I do work with lemon frost, and I can tell you that it's been outcrossed to a degree where it's looking good, if I can put it that way, but it's going to take more time to tell if those results last. So, like, I have a ton of lemon frost that have no issues, no tumors, no problems at all. But what it's really going to be about is that going to last? And same with the Enigma. You know, can a clean Enigma produce a really, really bad animal? And can a clean lemon frost produce a really, really bad animal? If the answer is yes to both of those questions, then I think responsible, limited breeding is the better answer rather than mass breeding. The only reason we're mass breeding lemon frost right now is because we need a data pool to study. You know, you don't go out and ask one person in a survey, hey, what's your favorite fast food restaurant, Burger King or McDonald's? You ask 100 people, 1,000 people, what's your favorite restaurant, Burger King or McDonald's? Because that's where you're going to get the best data collected of why. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, thanks, Bam Bam. If you learn to build your own racks and also um, have a room dedicated to leopard geckos that can be like 85 degrees constantly, you could just literally stack geckos in tubs, which is pretty much what crested gecko people do. But I really fully believe leopard geckos are so much cuter than other geckos. Me and my husband got into a debate of whether our leopards or tokay were cuter. Tokays are really cool too. And now here's why tokays don't take off is because of their aggressive nature. You know, so there's always a reason behind why something doesn't take off on mass level. Don't get me wrong, leopard geckos are still the number one selling lizard in the world. I think there are more leopard geckos sold in America than there are crested geckos sold in America. And maybe bearded dragons sold in America. But they're sold at very cheap. You know what I mean? They're sold to Petcos and PetSmarts and mom and pop reptile shops. Leopard geckos, you always see them in those shops, which is why I can say I believe they're one of the number one most sold reptiles, but also the number one most undervalued reptile, because leopard geckos are honestly so cool. They're just really undervalued because of how fast you can breed them and how much competition is out there. You know, there are leopard gecko breeders that are literally selling geckos for like $15 a piece, but those are kind of throwaway geckos. Those are geckos that they don't really care about. Like the genetics are going to be unknown, the health is going to be unconfirmed, the customer service is going to be non-existent. You know, for when you buy from those big box chain people, you're just buying what you buy. You're not going to get them on the line like giving you advice. Like, oh wait, did 20 of my geckos not eat for you? Maybe you should do this, this, and this. No, it's a wham bam. Thank you. The deal is done, and that's why those geckos are sold for so cheap to mom and pop shops, is because Some of those geckos die. Some of those geckos have parasites, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of reasons why they're sold so cheap, um, which is unfortunate. But the bottom line is they're sold cheap because a lot of those geckos don't make it. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that, Ari. Whitney's watching something. Yeah, I want to see if I can get. Actually, let me see if I have. I think I did put him in my phone. Um, Gecko Daddy. So if you guys have people that you would like to see me interview, um, drop it in the chat and I'll put them on the list if I know them or like if I want to interview them, which a lot of people I do want to interview. You know what I mean? So Gecko Daddy would be really cool. Yeah, Gecko Daddy is very good. Now, another thing about the leopard gecko world is all the breeders have kind of kept to themselves for the most part, right? So like, and don't take this in a negative way. I'm not judging the people. I'm just judging the situation. Um, so like Gecko Daddy, you don't see him on podcasts, YouTube. Um, I don't know how active he is on Instagram, like lives and stuff like that. But that's huge. That kind of like face to face content, like promoting, is what really builds a specific niche of the reptile hobby. In this case, leopard gecko. So the top breeders in leopard geckos don't do a great job at that so far. But there's more people that are starting to do a good job. But let me tell you the top breeders that don't do the best job is Gecko Daddy is not that big on social media. Geckos Etc., who's probably the number one leopard gecko breeder in America, I asked him for an interview and his secretary told me he's too busy to do it, which I understand. But the problem is none of these big breeders do it, right? So like Gecko Daddy, number one, all of these people I mentioned are going to be like in the top 10 breeders in the United States, right? So Gecko Daddy, not huge on social media. Geckos Etc., not huge on social media. And when I say social media, I mean all platforms, content creation. That has to include YouTube. YouTube has to be in the top of somebody's content creating platform because it's just an educational platform that allows for people to connect to others better than Instagram does. Because Instagram is just like okay, heart, like the photo, like it's not connecting anybody. YouTube actually connects people. Like, see, DNS Geckos, Max's Bedroom, Joshua Sikora, Bam Bam's Geckos. I can mention all you guys by name. We can develop a relationship. You can watch my videos, comment, receive comments back, and the hobby grows. So, Gecko Daddy, not big on social media. Geckos Etc., not big on social media. Suburban Gecko was big on social media, not for the past year, because I think he's really busy. But again, the reasons for all of these people, I don't want to say that I'm like frowning upon somebody for being busy, but the problem is all of these guys are not big on social media, and that unpromotes the hobby. So Suburban Gecko, um, we might be getting the urban reptile on. He has some of the best leopard geckos in the world. And, I have him scheduled for. I'm in communications with him to do an interview. We'll see if he follows through with it, but he's never done an interview before in the past. So he was not big on YouTube, but he does a lot of international sales. He's been around for a long time, which is why a lot of these guys, they don't need to do social media. They have their customer base. They have their money in their pocket. So they don't need to spend their time trying to bring new people into the hobby. They just figure those people will come to them anyway because of how big their name is in the hobby. But what they fail to realize is that new people in the hobby want to engage and interact with. I did not know you were in here, Effie. Okay. I didn't know the cat was in here. So anyway, social media is where it's at. So who else am I missing? Gecko Boa has done a couple of interviews, but he is not big on YouTube. He doesn't have the biggest like Instagram following for as old as his company is, and so like all of these reasons lead to leopard geckos not being promoted as much as they could be. So that's the only reason I bring that up. Trust me, I'm not saying that these people should be social media hogs because social media is not for everybody. But the problem is if nobody is doing it, none of these biggest breeders are doing it, it's not going to grow the hobby. Now, let me tell you some breeders that are newer, like within the last 5 to 7 years, that are starting to do more social media than compared to the bigger guys. So Luna Geckos is one. Geeky Gecko Creations, which is us, is another. Geckopia is a third. And besides that, there is nobody else right now pushing for leopard gecko breeding on the same scale as us three. Now, let me know if you see anybody else that has a big following or really pushing on the breeding side of things. Again, it has to be the breeding side of things because there are really big leopard gecko channels. Let me show you. One of them is actually called Leopard Gecko. This chick, well, first of all, Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles does a lot of leopard gecko videos. He has 222,000 subscribers, but he's not a leopard gecko breeder, okay? He's a leopard gecko keeper. We're talking about leopard gecko breeders, okay? This chick, oh man, look at that. She has 1 million views on this video from 4 years ago. That is absolutely insane. And the title of the video is not even anything that crazy. 16 things that leopard geckos do. So you know what this is telling me right here? This is telling me that people care more about keeping leopard geckos as pets than they do about keeping them for breeding purposes. But again, I am a breeder. That's my passion. I realize that I interact with people who do it as pets, but my social media presence is mainly geared towards breeders and breeding. Okay? 280,000 subscribers. 49 million views on her videos. And all she does is leopard geckos. You check out all of this, for the most part. How to convince your parents to get a leopard gecko. Giant naturalistic leopard gecko. Armpit bubbles in leopard gecko. Why I don't show my face. How to not breed your pet leopard gecko. Oh, she showed her face right there. Whoa, she showed her face. I've never seen her face. Oh, she might be commenting on somebody else's video. Unboxing and preparing geckos. This is not okay for leopard geckos. Do you see? Her channel is not about breeding leopard geckos. It's about keeping leopard geckos. Another one is Jessica's Animal Friends. 40,000 subscribers, but she is not a leopard gecko breeder. She is a leopard gecko keeper. So again, when I talk about the people that are not doing it social media wise, we're talking about breeders. Gecko Boa is a breeder. Geckos Etc. is a breeder. Suburban Gecko, breeder. Urban Gecko, breeder. Gecko Daddy, breeder. All of these guys are like focused breeders, right? And out of those focused breeders, only 3 come to mind right now that actually have a big growing presence on YouTube. Geeky Gecko Creations, Geckopia, and Luna Geckos. Everybody else is maybe just starting out their channels. It hasn't really gained a lot of momentum yet, but that's part of the problem. It's good that people are starting channels, but that's part of the problem is that not enough channels are successful yet or large yet. So YouTube is not promoting leopard gecko breeding as much as it is promoting leopard gecko keeping. You know what I mean? So I hope that kind of comparison makes sense. But Max's Bedroom Gaming, why is Lemon Frost such a classified? Yeah, No morph should be classified. I think we should be able to talk about things. But again, not these people necessarily, but people that run in that crowd. A lot of people in that crowd like to be classified. They like to be private. They don't want to talk about controversial things because it ruins their business in a way, because the leopard gecko world has become so niche and so nitpicky that the minute you start being controversial, a bunch of negative hate comes on you and it just makes the experience really bad for you. I don't think the hobby should be that way. I think we should be willing to talk about things. The ball python hobby started out classified. People did not want to share their secrets. People did not want to talk about how to be successful in ball pythons. And that caused for the hobby to stay stagnant for a while until more people started breaking those boundaries and entering the new ground of sharing information, sharing knowledge, sharing, collaborating with others, right? Once all of that started happening, the ball python market took off because more people were encouraged by that unclassification, that unsecretive side of promoting the hobby. So the reason lemon frost is classified is this. Leopard geckos is the people that run the leopard gecko world. Let me put it to you this way. The people that run America are like your presidents, your governors, your congressmen, right? Those people run America. They dictate the laws of what you can and can't do. They arrest you and all that kind of stuff if things go wrong, right? The people that dictate leopard geckos are typically all friends with each other, and they all have sort of the same mindset as far as being closed off to experimenting with controversial morphs and controversial topics and those kinds of things. And whenever anybody new tries to talk about those things, they try to crush you like a cockroach because they've been in it for so long. They think that they rule and dictate the hobby and that they can continue on in that way unchallenged. But I'm challenging them. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not alone in this. I know there's going to be other people that challenge this status quo in leopard geckos and give people a different opportunity to not be confound to the walls of their mentality, but to be open to the possibilities of new ideas and new things. So the number one reason that they are all closed off to it is because they all kind of run together. And the minute that one person doesn't agree with something, everybody else kind of wants to jump onto that bandwagon because they don't want to cause friction with each other. They don't want to cause drama with each other. And so they tend to stay very secretive and very classified when it comes to controversial topics instead of talking about it, especially with the opposing party. I mean, you can never get the full picture when you're just talking about it with your own party, which is why elections are so cool, because you have the Democrats on one side, you got the Republicans on another side. They actually talk things out and have civil arguments with each other. But in the leopard gecko world, people would just rather not do that. They want you to obey or get away. I just came up with that right now. That makes sense, right? They want you to obey them or get away. And because they've been doing this for so long, they kind of rule the hobby in a way. And so they have the power. They have this kind of power to push you away or to try to push you away. But for people like me that won't give up or be allowed to be bullied around or pushed out like that, I think they're going to start facing some opposition that is going to change the hobby in a way. Maybe not change their perspective, but it will give new leopard gecko breeders and keepers a different platform to be a part of. Because right now, the option has only been to be a part of their platform. It's either you're in with them or you're an outcast, like the cool kids in high school, right? It's either you're in with them or you're an outcast. But now there's other groups starting to form, more open-minded leopard gecko breeder groups, such as ourselves, that give people an option to where, hey, if you're not part of the in crowd over here, you could be part of this crowd over here. I would inevitably like to see both crowds unite, but so far up until this point, they have rejected every interview with me, whether that's me being on their show or them being on my show. They've rejected every opportunity to try to cross those bridges. So it seems like they're just going to stay on their island, on their side of the bridge, and they don't want to cross over or meet halfway. So that's kind of what it's looking like right now. We'll see. Maybe that will change in time. There is such thing as a chocolate albino. It's for the Tremper albino, and it's when the albinos are darker, they call them chocolates. I think it's more random of an effect. There are some people that say that it's linked to incubating geckos at lower temperatures, but I've had tons of super bright geckos incubate at really low temperatures, so I don't know how much faith I really put in the whole incubating at lower temperatures for darker animals, higher temperatures for brighter animals thing. I'll definitely probably do some testing of my own with it in the future, I think it's more just randomness, because when it comes to genetics are very, very random and spontaneous, right? So it will be really, really hard. You'd have to gather a lot of data to pinpoint that the exact cause of this gecko being darker is because of temperature or brighter is because of temperature. It would take a lot of data and not just observation to make that decision. So yeah, the leopard gecko hobby definitely needs more promotion. So all of you guys who are buying into leopard geckos and finding a lot of excitement and joy in leopard geckos, continue to do your thing. I mean, it's going to take a few years, but I definitely think leopard geckos can be on the rise again over the next 5 years. Mark my words. I think leopard geckos can be on the rise again, and we will start to see them more at shows, more on YouTube, on the breeding side of things, more in content collaboration and creation. So I do love to be able to reach out, ask questions, and actually have a conversation. I'm more willing to buy from someone like you rather than the bigger, less personable people. Well, I appreciate that, of course, because it kind of proves my point that as human beings, we want interaction, communication, and all that kind of stuff. And Bam Bam was actually asking me a couple weeks ago or a week ago, am I going to have smaller breeders on my Breeder Feature Friday? And the answer is yes. I will have smaller breeders on. I mean, depending on what you consider small, Thomas from Tucson's Finest Leos and Junior from Junior's Leos, they are relatively newer to being breeders. They've spent a decent amount of money to get into the hobby and buy some higher end animals. So they're not like novices, let's say, but they are newer on the side of breeding. But will I have very, very new people that maybe haven't even broken their first $1,000 of geckos yet? And the answer is I may, and I probably will. Right now, my focus is I really want to make Fridays about really well-established businesses right now, because I think it's going to be really fun for me as well as our audience to see people that are really established in the hobby, so that you can look up to some of these people of what you could be like, right? So like you might look up to some of our guests and be like, wow, if he could do it, I could do it, and you're going to learn tips and tricks of what we have learned growing up in this hobby, so that you could maybe spare yourself some of those issues and kind of fast track yourself even better. So that's going to be my main goal with Friday nights. But the little guys is actually the only reason the big guys are successful, is because little guys get into the hobby and then little guys start spending money in the hobby. It starts with a couple dollars, a couple $100, and then maybe a couple $1,000. So in a way, my main focus here on Geeky Gecko Creations is to give a voice and to give attention to the little guys, to give interaction to people in a way that their newer keepers are not able to get elsewhere, or maybe not as much elsewhere. And so I appreciate you saying that. That's one of my goals for this channel, which is why I'm not too concerned about like the bigger breeders. Some of the bigger breeders, not all of them, but some of them that like have a problem with us breeding lemon frost, or me they don't like me as a person because I'm newer to the hobby and I'm doing these things that are like catching attention and like developing a following. And I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know if it's just animosity because I refuse to like fall in line with them and like obey every little thing they say or ask me to do. Because at the end of the day, we're all our own people. And I respect every single one of the people that have given me criticism for the way that I've conducted myself over this last year as far as breeding lemon frost, teaching on YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. They've criticized me for all that, and I respect their criticism, but it's not constructive. At the end of the day, they're just trying to tear me down. They're trying to stop me from educating, stop me from pursuing what I want to pursue and breeding what I want to breed. They're trying to control. And the minute that you won't let them control you, even if you do it in a nice way, you're public enemy number one to them. You know what I mean? And so it's just ridiculous, childlike and clicky. Can I use that word? The leopard gecko hobby is very clicky, but we want to unclick that clickiness, or create a clique of our own that does not need to be confined to the boundaries of just one specific sect of perspective, right? And I respect their perspective. They have a great perspective. I would like to talk it over with them. But again, that bridge is just not there right now. We'll see. Maybe it will be one day. I'm sure it will be. I'm sure there's going to be people that will come onto our show and interview with us. And I am more than willing to give them a voice, to voice their opinion, their perspective. The problem is, up until this point, they just don't want to do that because they don't want to hear somebody else's opinion and somebody else's voice, And so we don't have to yell at each other or get in an arguing match. It's just simply, oh, okay, that's what you believe for those reasons. Here's what I believe for these reasons. We both have decent points or good points. Both of our arguments are not perfect because you're not perfect and I'm not perfect. And so that's my whole issue with them right now is they act like they're so perfect and so holy when they make mistakes. They produce bad geckos. They have geckos die in shipping. They have geckos that are born small, born with crinkled eyes, born with backwards arms, born with issues. They have all of these issues, but act like they are so much better than me. It just blows me away of the lack of self-reflection, you know what I mean, that exists in some of the people that have given us the most unconstructive criticism. There's constructive criticism and then there's unconstructive criticism, and that's pretty much what we see from this group of the bigger breeders a lot of times is unconstructive criticism, or they won't get involved at all. Like, I think from a business perspective, Geckos Etc. is smart for where the leopard gecko hobby is right now. He does not want to tarnish his name. So he does not get involved in little squabbles and stuff like that because he's too busy making money. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to not only make money for the business, but I'm trying to start a new wave of growth in the leopard gecko hobby, which is a much more open, communicative place that people can talk and share ideas that might be controversial or contradicting towards the current ideas or leadership, and people have a place to voice those opinions and voice and not be judged or condemned or outcast. So that's my goal, you know. Gal- Galactic Empire and the That's actually really good. So do we have to call ourselves the Rebel Alliance? Should we start calling ourselves like us on this channel, the Rebel Alliance? That's funny. I like that. My favorite morph is Black Knight and Tangerine. And I would like to take Black Knight and Tangerine because they are line bred traits. I would like to take that into Afghanicus and Fasciolatus, which is also line bred because those are subspecies that look different. They have a different look to them, but it's line bred genetics. So I think that is going to be my funnest passion over the next couple of years is going to be what I can do with Tangerine and Black Knight and combining them into wild types and combining them together. Like Black Knight Tangerine, I'm really excited about. And also, of course, you have to integrate white and yellow with Tangerine because white and yellow just goes amazing with Tangerine. Um, and I want to develop a lot of Tangerines with contrast. What I mean by contrast is like spotting and like purple and green hues. And so I think that's another reason why Black Knight is going to be so good into Tangerine is because all of that darkness, all of those black spotting and hues is really going to go well into Tangerine. You want to go see mommy? Okay. The cat wants to go be let out. Go see mommy. All right, I'm probably going to wrap up a couple questions here, and we will end it there. Although I'm a little tired from being in the sun cleaning out the garage all day, I do need to. What do I need to do? Oh man, I could probably put off crested gecko cleaning till tomorrow, but there was something I needed to do. There was something. Um, it might have been. I might need to put away leopard gecko babies. I need to breed leopard geckos tonight. So there's a couple leopard geckos that need to breed. And those are Black Knight and Tangerine. So our top quality stuff. So it's weird. Our top quality stuff breeds for us later in the year. So like all the like medium quality stuff or lower quality stuff, if you want to call it that. I mean, even our lower quality stuff, what I call low quality, I think is super nice genetics, right? But our highest end stuff breeds later in the year and our lower end stuff breeds earlier in the year. So although a lot of the lower end stuff is like done breeding or kind of like towards the end of their season, our highest end breeding stuff is just at the beginning of their season right now. So Derek, I've already spent several thousand, just need to get some notice eventually. Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of people asking about our Manfernos, our Mandarin Infernos. Um, but I've just really been holding on to them because I want to produce a ton of them, which allows me to also offer better pricing, right? So I'll be honest with you guys. One of my strategies for business right now for leopard geckos, because it's hard, because not as many people spend high dollar in leopard geckos right now. There are people spending high dollar in leopard geckos. Look, Derek just said he spent thousands. Junior spent thousands. I spent thousands. Thomas spent thousands. There are a ton of people spending thousands, but relative to the amount of people in the leopard gecko hobby, there aren't as many people spending high dollar in the hobby to be sustainable. So what I mean by that is if you buy a pair of Black Knights right now, and you want to make a business out of just selling high-end Black Knights, it might take you 12 months to sell $20,000 worth of Black Knights. But it might take you 2 months to sell $20,000 worth of $100 leopard geckos. So my go-to-market strategy right now for leopard geckos, since since people are not buying the high-end stuff at just an alarmingly quick rate, the high-end stuff is not selling at an alarmingly quick rate. If it was, I would just be focusing on high-end. But because it's not, I need to focus on, and maybe this is a better way for the way I should phrase it. When I say low end or medium end, let's use the ideology of $100 to $300 animal. Those animals are very, very nice. They are typically high-end quality. It's just that people have to sell them at lower-end dollars because not as many people in the leopard gecko world are willing to spend hundreds of dollars right now. Okay? People in the leopard gecko hobby right now want to spend lower amounts of money, but they still want high quality. So my go-to-market strategy is, if I can produce a ton of high-quality animals, but sell them for lower quality prices, I should be able to get a competitive edge in the hobby. Because people are going to look at the gecko and be like, wow, that's an amazing looking gecko. It looks like a $600 gecko, but you're selling it for $200. I'll buy that. And if I can do that 100 times before the high-end breeders are able to do it 20 times, then I have developed for myself a competitive edge. Does that make sense? So that's my go-to-market strategy, at least, especially as a newer breeder who is going to take some time to develop a name, etc. I just need to produce a lot of animals, but I want to produce high-quality animals. So I've selected some of the best quality animals over the last 5 years that I could create. I hold back a ton of those high-quality animals. I breed them to high-quality animals, and then bam, I'm just trying to make a business out of it. And I'm learning along the way. And as I learn, I will definitely share with you guys what is working, what is not working. But I'll tell you what, if you think that you can jump in right now and spend $10,000 and then make $10,000 back your first year breeding those geckos, I think that's not possible. I think it's going to be very hard to do. Again, because the reason is leopard gecko people are not spending a ton of money right now until we grow the hobby, which is why my focus is growing the hobby. The more geckos I get out there, the more podcasts I do, the more content I create, it's actually growing, helping to grow the hobby, which will then in turn bring more people who are willing to spend money into the hobby, and that will make the whole hobby as a whole grow. Every breeder is going to grow. Even some of our biggest critics, when I didn't have geckos to sell last year, I was pushing customers to those people, and I'm not afraid of doing that. And let me tell you why I'm not afraid of promoting other people, is because when you promote other businesses that are good and successful and have great quality animals, it gets people excited. And then they get excited, and then they get somebody else excited, and that person gets somebody else excited, and it grows the hobby as a whole, and it creates more business as a whole. So that is another one of my go-to-market strategies, is just promoting the geckos. That giveaway gecko that I gave away, man, I wanted to keep that gecko. I really wanted to breed that gecko. You really couldn't see it in person, but it had a lot of really nice greens. It was a red stripe. Why did I allow that gecko to go away? Because hundreds or thousands of people were impacted by that post, and it got people excited about leopard geckos. It got people excited about specifically our niche in the reptile hobby, which is leopard geckos. And so that's why I'm going to try, if I have enough geckos to do this with, I'm going to try to do a monthly giveaway, because that monthly giveaway is going to generate excitement for the hobby. It's not just about generating sales. I may have generated 1, 2, maybe 3 sales by the promotion of that event. and in time I'll get more sales through the promotion of that event. But I mean, after the initial promotion of that event, I might have sold 2 or 3 geckos, maybe, since that event, right? So that's really not a big turnaround. I gave away a $200 gecko with free shipping to maybe make $300, right? So I didn't make a lot right now in the instance right now, but that post and that trend and all those people that got excited about that giveaway, they're coming back. They're looking for more giveaways. They're going to be scanning my website in a month, 2 months, a year, right? They're a follower of me now potentially, you know. They're going to be on the lookout for more fun and exciting stuff. So that's part of my go-to-market strategy as well. Is number one, I just love sharing leopard gecko content. So I would be doing it anyway. But number two, just from a business perspective, it's a really, really good idea to promote and share and get people excited about leopard geckos in your specific niche. So Copy Hollywood, my website will be updated this week, I want to say. I was cleaning the garage today, which will allow me to make more leopard gecko racks for all the babies and stuff. But it's my goal over the next 7 days to take pictures, get those pictures onto my website, and also upload them to Morph Market. So that usually takes a couple days. So it will be a couple days. Lemon Frost Outcrossing has been doing good. The unhealthiest expressions of lemon frost that I've experienced are the lemon frost that have less wild blood in them. So as an experiment, we took some lemon frost that we had, we took some Generation 3 Turkmenicus lemon frost and we bred them to just macularis. I wanted to see what happens. Some of those geckos still have no tumors, but there is one gecko from that group that does have a large chin tumor growing, and it has more of like that classical, thicker-skinned, tumor-ish looking gecko look. Compared to our outcrosses, which are Generation 4 Turkmenicuses and Generation 1 and 2 Fasciolatus crosses, those geckos are looking a ton better, like really, really good. Some of them do have some bright spotting, but the bright spotting is not large, it's not bulbous, it's not protruding over the surface, except on one gecko. Out of like 50 geckos, there's only one Generation 4 Fasciolatus that has a bulbous tumor, and it's just like one bulbous tumor, and it's not that big, and it's not on the chin. It's not in the normal locations that those tumors occur on macularis. The rest of the geckos may have some spotting here and there, or maybe one bright spot, like a cluster of bright cells, or they have nothing at all. So really more time needs to be conducted, but it appears that in the wild type genetics, it's either slowing down, lessening, or completely taking away the expression of those tumors on a much higher percentage basis than it does with macularis. So yeah, I'm going to be updating the website with more geckos. As you can see, so we did I think my headphone gave out right now. Can you hear me talking right now? Can you hear me talking as my lips are moving right now? I'm just curious. I'll be able to tell in the playback. But for some reason, the headphones keep shutting off. I don't know if that's an auto shut off feature because like nothing's coming through them. Even though I'm talking to my mic, it shouldn't. But anyway, I'll figure that out. But check out the website. So we did pretty decent these last 3 months, I think, or 2 months since I put up geckos for sale, right? So we have, so this gecko sold. This one's on hold. This one's on hold. This gecko sold. Anything that says coming soon, those geckos sold. This one's on hold. But I really think the reason that they sold is because of the price point. So you can see like this animal, look at this animal. This is a good animal. This animal should easily be worth $200 to $250. I sold it for $125. Again, part of my go-to-market strategy is just to get sales, get customers, get people excited. And this is the same person that bought this and this. So when you buy 3 geckos, you get an extra discount. And so that person got the extra discount. I think I also might have given them a discount on shipping. Sometimes if you buy 3, 4, 5 geckos from me, I'm able to give you a discount on shipping. Look at this animal. Beautiful animal that somebody purchased recently. Just because it has the possibility of 2 dads, I only priced it at $100. But look, that's a beauty right there. That's going to create some awesome looking animals. Sold. If you want to get into wild types, look how cheap I posted these wild types. The only reason I posted these wild types so cheap is because there's not a lot of buzz around them right now, so I don't have the footing to sell them for a lot of money. But the minute that more people want to do wild type crosses and the demand goes up, these prices will go up. So like Geckos Etc. or Gecko Boa, they sell their wild types for like $150 to $200. But I'm a newer breeder and I'm trying to create buzz and market share, customer acquisition. So I'm selling them cheaper just so I can get into all that. So sold. And if you actually want to see the geckos that sold, you can see here. So this gecko sold, and these prices might or might not reflect the final price. Sometimes there's bargaining that goes on with customers. There's deals that happen. So like this says $450. I can almost guarantee you this animal did not sell for $450, but sold. So pretty good there. This was the gecko that the person won in the giveaway. I wanted to make it there. So, but yeah, we're going to update all of those geckos. Hello, Chai from Thailand. Yes, Chai, I've been wanting to learn your name, Chai, because I couldn't understand the writing. Now I know your name. So hello, Chai is always very responsive on our Instagram posts. This person is very active on YouTube, and they're from Thailand. Awesome to see you, Chai. Really good to meet you. Guys, I am running low on energy. I think I'm just about... My 2 geckos are in the sold section there somewhere. Yeah. Yep, Bam Bam did buy 2 geckos from us. I'm about to fall asleep, guys, and I really have more work I need to do. So thank you guys for being here. Again, our schedule is going to be Monday nights at 7 p.m. Actually, first of all, let me ask a question. I did this live stream tonight at 8 p.m. It seemed like it was not as many people came in. Was it because it was at 8 p.m. or was it because it was on Friday night? Because I don't want to be inviting guests on if it's a less popular night. So let me get some feedback from you guys before we leave. There's a little bit more people in now, which is interesting. There's more people in later than there was earlier. 8 o'clock my time is 11 o'clock on the East Coast. And it's like 10 o'clock Central Time. And it's like 7 o'clock California time. So this time zone at 8 o'clock tonight, was this too late? Do I need to make it an hour earlier? Should I make it 2 hours earlier? And what about Monday nights? Monday nights seem to be really good at 7 o'clock. A lot of people come in. Last Monday night, I think we had like 20 or 30 people in on a Monday night. So is it on average? And the average tonight was about 7 to 10 people on average that were in the live constant. So MST crew. So I need some feedback from you guys. Why did less people join on Friday? Is it the time or is it the day? Is it just that people are just watching movies on a Friday night or something like that? Because I'll change it to a different night. I'll change it to like Saturday night or Wednesday night. So I might have to experiment with that a little bit. Maybe I'll experiment with the time first. Maybe I'll go up an hour first. Or do you think I should just keep it the same at 8 o'clock? So I'm willing to hear you guys out. Please maybe comment if you have some thoughts towards the time. But our schedule as of right now is Monday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, That's my live stream with you guys, where it's just like this, but then where we talk and have a live stream and talk geckos and reptiles, etc. Friday nights is actually going to be my podcast series where I invite guests on. We were supposed to have our first two guests on tonight. Some freak accident things happened with those guys and they had to pull out last minute. So it was just me. I wanted to still do it and give the platform and all that kind of stuff to get people more into it. And maybe that's the thing. This is the first night we're doing it. So people are not aware, but Friday nights we are going to start doing guest live streams. And maybe I'll do it at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time again, just to keep it consistent with the Monday night. It seemed like 8 might be a little bit too late, so I'll give it a little thought. But I'm also curious, so please comment your thoughts on whether the day needs to change or whether the time needs to change on Friday night, and I'll give it some consideration. But for now, guys, I'm going to sign off. Have a great rest of your Friday evening. I will see you in the next episode. Peace.